All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning. I'm Anuja Kumar and with me is V. Ravi Kumar. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi meets U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris in Washington, D.C. Two leaders call for a free and open Indo-Pacific region. Prime Minister also holds bilateral meetings with his Japanese and Australian counterparts. PM Modi to hold bilateral meeting with US President Joe Biden and attend Quad Summit at White House today. Indian Army to procure 118 main battle tanks Arjun Mark 1A worth 7,523 crore rupees. Government allows door-to-door COVID vaccination for differently abled persons. India's vaccination coverage crosses 84 crore mark. First Himalayan Film Festival begins today at Leh in Ladakh. And in IPL cricket, Kolkata Knight Riders beat Mumbai Indians by 7 wickets in Abu Dhabi. As the nationwide free COVID-19 vaccination campaign at government facilities for those above 18 years is underway, we advise our young listeners to get vaccinated and also help others get vaccinated. We also advise our listeners not to lower their guard as COVID-19 remains a threat to our health. Please stay at home unless it is essential to go out and continue to follow these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki doori for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact National Helpline numbers 011-2397-8046 and 1075. And now, the news in detail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris met in Washington, D.C. last night. The two leaders expressed happiness at their first in-person meeting. Mr. Modi and Kamala Harris discussed the COVID-19 situation and the ongoing efforts to contain the pandemic. The Prime Minister lauded the U.S. support at that time.
वो समय था जब भारत कोविड की दूसरी लहर से बहुत ही पीड़ित था, बड़ा संकट था कि उस समय जिस प्रकार से आत्मीयता से आपने भारत की चिंता की, जो शब्द व्यक्त किए और जो सहायता के लिए हाथ बढ़ाया, इसके लिए मैं फिर एक बार हृदय से आपका आभार व्यक्त करता हूं.
U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris appreciated India's vaccination drive and how it has now moved to export the vaccines for humanity.
On COVID-19, our nations have worked together. Early in the pandemic, India was a vital source of vaccines for other countries. When India experienced a surge of COVID in the country, the United States was very proud to support India in its need and responsibility to vaccinate its people. And I welcome India's announcement that it will soon be able to resume vaccine exports. It is of particular note and admiration that India, I'm told, is currently vaccinating approximately 10 million people a day.
Regional and global issues including developments in Afghanistan and the quest for an open, free and inclusive Indo-Pacific region figured prominently in the talks. Both leaders agreed that India, US and Quad need to strengthen the supply chains and partner in the new technologies.
As it relates to the Indo-Pacific, the United States, like India, feel very strongly about the pride of being a member of the Indo-Pacific, but also the fragility and the importance and strength as well of those relationships, including maintaining a free and open Indo-Pacific.
Both sides acknowledged the importance of collaborative action on climate change. The Prime Minister spoke about India's push for increasing renewable energy and the recently launched National Hydrogen Mission. They also discussed areas of future collaboration, including space, cooperation, information technology, especially emerging and critical technologies, as well as the cooperation in healthcare sector.
विश्व की सबसे बड़ी और सबसे पुरानी डेमोक्रेसीज के रूप में भारत और अमेरिका नेचुरल पार्टनर है. सप्लाई चेन की मजबूती, नवीनतम टेक्नोलॉजी और अंतरिक्ष जैसे क्षेत्रों में आपकी विशेष रुचि है. ये क्षेत्र मेरे लिए भी विशेष प्रायोरिटी के हैं. इन क्षेत्रों में हमारे बीच सहयोग बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है.
Highlighting the role of vibrant people-to-people contact, both leaders emphasized upon the flow of knowledge, innovation and talent between the two countries. Mr. Modi expressed confidence that India-USA ties will grow further under the leadership of President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. Prime Minister Narendra Modi held a bilateral meeting with Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison on the sidelines of the Quad Leaders Summit in Washington, D.C. This was the first in-person meeting between the two leaders in the post-pandemic period. During the meeting, the Prime Ministers discussed a broad range of issues of bilateral, regional and global importance. They noted with satisfaction the regular high-level engagements between the two countries, including the recently held First India-Australia Foreign and Defence Ministers 2+2 dialogue. They reviewed the progress achieved since the leaders' virtual summit. Both the leaders resolved to continue close cooperation for mutual well-being and towards advancing their shared objective of an open, free, prosperous and rules-based Indo-Pacific region. They expressed satisfaction at the ongoing negotiations on a bilateral comprehensive economic cooperation agreement, CECA. They noted the commitment of both sides to achieve an early harvest announcement on an interim agreement by December this year. The Prime Ministers underlined the need for the international community to address the issue of climate change on an urgent basis. Both leaders also discussed possibilities of providing clean technologies.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Japanese counterpart Yoshihide Suga had a fruitful meeting in Washington, D.C. The two leaders held discussions on several issues, including ways to give further impetus to trade and cultural ties. They discussed a range of issues, including Indo-Pacific, regional developments, supply chain resilience, trade, digital economy, and people-to-people ties. Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacted with the top global chief executive officers, CEOs, and business leaders in Washington, D.C. Mr. Modi met with CEOs of First Solar, General Atomic, Adobe, Blackstone, and Qualcomm. World's leading investment company Blackstone CEO Stephen Schwarzman said India has been its best market for investment in the world. After meeting Prime Minister Modi, Mr. Schwarzman gave details of Blackstone's investment in India and their plans to further ramp it up.
Well, I had a very good meeting with the Prime Minister. I told him that Blackstone had already invested $60 billion in assets in India, and over the next 5 years, we're planning another $40 billion of assets. We're one of the 10 largest companies in India. So he expressed his appreciation and talked about new programs.
General Atomic CEO Vivek Lal lauded India's policies and reforms in the field of drones. After meeting Prime Minister, Mr. Lal said India's space reforms are appreciated by one and all.
So it was an outstanding meeting to meet with the Prime Minister individually this morning here in D.C. And, we spoke about technology and all the confidence and the policy reforms that's coming in India and the great potential that India has from an investment perspective.
Prime Minister Modi and Mark Widmar, CEO of First Solar, agreed on enhancement of the manufacturing of solar equipment in India. Mr. Modi spoke about One World, One Sun and One Grid initiative and its potential. Mr. Widmar expressed happiness over the Indian policies for climate change and related industries. Praising India, Mr. Widmar said all countries should emulate what India has done in climate change.
It was an outstanding meeting. I couldn't have asked for anything more. First, it was an honor to have a chance to speak with him. Clearly, with his leadership and what he's done to create a really strong balance between industrial policy as well as trade policy, makes it an ideal opportunity for companies like First Solar to establish manufacturing in India.
Prime Minister Modi also had a good meeting with Chief Executive Officer of Qualcomm, Cristiano Amon. Qualcomm has a huge presence in India, including R&D. Mr. Amon has expressed enthusiasm to work with India on ambitious digital transformation programs, including in 5G, PM Vani, and others. The Prime Minister also had a productive meeting with Chief Executive Officer of Adobe, Shantanu Narayan. Mr. Narayan appreciated the efforts of India in fighting COVID and particularly in the rapid vaccination. He expressed interest to contribute to India's 75th anniversary of independence. He also expressed desire to bring video and animation to every child in India. Prime Minister Modi and Adobe CEO both emphasized on creating a few centers of excellence in artificial intelligence in India. Mr. Narayan also said investment in India is the company's secret weapon.
Among the key topics that we talked about was, continued investment in innovation, because he certainly believes that technology is the way to help move things forward. Specifically, we talked about artificial intelligence and what might happen with artificial intelligence. We talked about creativity, the importance of creativity and how media, the ever-changing nature of media. We talked about online and the importance of startups. And in addition to that, we just talked about how, companies like Adobe can do more in India.
Foreign Secretary Harsh Shringla briefed media persons in Washington, D.C. this morning about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's meetings with several government and corporate leaders. Talking about Mr. Modi's meeting with the U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris, Mr. Shringla said the two leaders appreciated the bilateral relationship between the U.S. and India. The Foreign Secretary said the U.S. Vice President suo motu referred to Pakistan's role with regards to terrorism and assured that the country should make sure that terror groups don't impact the U.S. and the Indian security.
When the issue of terrorism came up, the Vice President suo motu referred to Pakistan's role in that regard. She said that there were terror groups that were working there. She asked Pakistan to take action so that these groups do not impact on U.S. security and that of India. She agreed with the Prime Minister's briefing on the fact of cross-border terrorism and the fact that India had been a victim of terrorism for several decades now, and all the need to rein in, closely monitor Pakistan's support for such terrorist groups.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will hold a bilateral meeting with U.S. President Joe Biden and attend the Quad Summit at the White House today. This is going to be the first in-person meeting between the two leaders after Mr. Biden took over as the U.S. President on the 20th of January. Mr. Biden will also host the first ever in-person Quad Leaders Summit, which will be attended by Prime Minister Modi, Australian PM Scott Morrison and Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga. Prime Minister Modi will conclude his U.S. visit tomorrow with an address at the United Nations General Assembly focusing on the pressing global challenges, including the COVID-19 pandemic, the need to combat terrorism, climate change, and other important issues.
You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi meets U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris in Washington, D.C. The two leaders call for a free and open Indo-Pacific region. Prime Minister also holds bilateral meetings with his Japanese and Australian counterparts. PM Modi to hold bilateral meeting with US President Joe Biden and attend the Quad Summit at White House today. Indian Army to procure 118 main battle tanks Arjun Mark 1A worth 7,523 crore rupees. Government allows door-to-door COVID vaccination for differently abled persons. India's vaccination coverage crosses 84 crore mark. First Himalayan Film Festival begins today at Leh in Ladakh. And in IPL cricket, Kolkata Knight Riders beat Mumbai Indians by 7 wickets in Abu Dhabi. For quick news updates around the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle @AIR News Alerts.
The Ministry of Defence today placed an order with Heavy Vehicles Factory, Avadi in Chennai for supply of 118 main battle tanks Arjun Mark 1A for the Indian Army. The order, worth 7,523 crore rupees, will further provide a boost to the Make in India initiative in defence sector and is a big step towards achieving Atmanirbhar Bharat envisioned by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The state-of-the-art main battle tank Mark 1A is a new variant of Arjun tank designed to enhance firepower, mobility and survivability. The government has said that differently abled people and senior citizens will be administered COVID vaccine shots at home if they are unable to go to the vaccine centres. Briefing media yesterday, VK Paul, Member Health Niti Aayog, said the government has made a provision under which people with restricted mobility will be administered vaccine shots at home under the supervision of trained vaccinators. Union Health Secretary Rajesh Bhushan has written letters to the states and UTs to make special arrangements for this.
In a landmark achievement, India's COVID-19 vaccination coverage has crossed the 84 crore milestone. Till now, more than 84 crore 8,21,000 doses have been administered. The Health Ministry said more than 65 lakh vaccine doses were administered yesterday.
Union Minister Piyush Goyal will arrive in Shimla today on a 3-day visit to Himachal Pradesh. He will participate in various programs under the Seva aur Samarpan Abhiyan in Shimla today. During his visit, Piyush Goyal will participate in programs including plantation, cleanliness drive, blood donation camp, Vanijya Saptah and Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana program, among others. India and Australia held the first joint working group meeting on coal and mines through video conferencing yesterday. It is a precursor to the upcoming India-Australia Energy Dialogue scheduled to be held next month. The meeting was co-chaired by Additional Secretary in the Ministry of Coal, Vinod Kumar Tiwari, from the Indian side, and Head of Resources Division, Paul Trotman, from the Australian side.
The monsoon session of Telangana legislature will begin today. The state government is planning to introduce over half a dozen bills during the session. The Business Advisory Committee BAC of the Assembly will finalize the duration and agenda for the session tomorrow. In Bihar, voting is underway for the first phase of Panchayat elections amid tight security. Polling, which began at 7 a.m., will end at 5 p.m. Polling is being held in 170 Panchayats spread over 10 districts including Gaya, Aurangabad and Munger today.
Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Thakur will inaugurate the first ever Himalayan Film Festival in Leh today. The 5-day film festival at Leh's Sindhu Sanskriti Kendra will screen movies from 12 Himalayan states and union territories. Here is a report.
As part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, the first Himalayan Film Festival is being organized by Union Territory of Ladakh. The film festival is to showcase the filmmaking talent from all Himalayan states and union territories. Festival begins with screening of Shesha, while the Shepherdess of Glacier will be screened on the closing ceremony on 28 September. Popular films from Himalayan states besides selected Indian panorama films will be screened. The short film competitions and documentaries for spotting talented filmmakers and to encourage fresh talents also a part of the festival. Ramesh Chandra, All India Radio News, Leh.
As our nation celebrates the 75th year of independence, a series of events are being organized by the government as a part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Now let's listen to our special program, Azadi Ka Safar.
Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav.
Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. India's glorious fight for freedom is one of the greatest struggles the modern world has ever witnessed. Every day, AIR News brings you a glimpse of the valiant struggle.
In today's episode, we pay tribute to the great Indian revolutionary Pritilata Vadidar, who sacrificed her life for the freedom of India at the young age of 21 on this day in 1932. She was devoted to the cause of Indian independence and was inspired by the valor of Rani Lakshmibai since her school days.
She completed her education in Kolkata and took up the job of headmistress at English medium secondary school in a native place in Chittagong. It was here that she joined revolutionaries under the leadership of famous freedom fighter Master Da Surya Sen.
Pritilata firmly believed that women should also take a leading role in the armed struggle against the British.
One of Priti's brothers was involved in revolutionary politics, and it was he who introduced her to Surya Sen, who accepted Pritilata as the first woman member of his revolutionary group. She was a prominent member of the Special Revolutionary Operations for the destruction of the telephone and telegraph office and the capture of the Reserve Police line in Jalalabad Hills Battle in 1932. Thereafter, Pritilata led 15 revolutionaries to the Pahartali European Club in a successful raid.
However, Pritilata, dressed as a man, was trapped without a way of escape on that fateful night and chose to give up her life rather than being a prisoner to the British administration. Her martyrdom created a huge stir and acted as an inspiration for revolutionaries across India. We salute her unflinching love for the nation.
Today, we also remember freedom fighter Bhikaji Rustam Kama, popularly known as Madam Kama, who was born on this day in 1861 in Mumbai.
It was in London that she met nationalist Shyamji Krishna Varma and Dadabhai Nauroji and got inspired to work for the Indian freedom struggle.
Kama supported the founding of the Indian Home Rule Society in London in 1905. Later, she relocated to Paris and co-founded the Paris Indian Society, together with other notable members of the movement for Indian sovereignty living in exile. Kama wrote, published and distributed revolutionary literature for the movement.
On the 22nd of August 1907, Kama attended the Second Socialist Congress at Stuttgart, Germany, and appealed for human rights, equality and freedom from imperialist Great Britain. She unfurled what she called the flag of Indian independence. Later, this flag was brought into British India by Indulal Yagnik and is currently on display at the Maratha and Kesari Library in Pune. The flag raised by Kama also served as one of the templates from which the current national flag of India has been created.
Madam Kama's legacy continues through her love and sacrifice for Indian independence. Several Indian cities have streets and places named after her. On 26 January 1962, India's 11th Republic Day, the Indian Post and Telegraph Department issued a commemorative stamp in her honor. Her life is one of grit, determination and love for the nation. We salute her indomitable spirit.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. See you in the next episode tomorrow.
In the program Spotlight, News Services Division of All India Radio is broadcasting a special series, Seva aur Samarpan 20 Saal Sushaasan Ke. Today, the theme is Aspirational Districts. It showcases Prime Minister Narendra Modi's resolve and dedication towards achieving Sabka Vikas through the Aspirational Districts program. This special program can be heard tonight on FM Gold channel and additional frequencies from 9:15 p.m. onwards. This program will also be available on our website newsonair.com and on our YouTube channel News on AIR Official. Raising awareness about coronavirus in Corona Jagrukta series at 9:30 to 10 p.m. Today we have Dr. Balbir Singh from Max Hospital to answer the queries of listeners. So keep listening to All India Radio News for the latest developments. Odisha will host the Junior Men's World Cup Hockey in November 2021. Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik announced this in the capital Bhubaneswar last evening. He also unveiled the logo and trophy for the tournament. As many as 16 countries will take part in the event. It will be held in Kalinga Stadium in Bhubaneswar from the 24th of November to the 5th of December 2021. Odisha had earlier hosted the 2018 Men's Hockey World Cup. In IPL cricket, Kolkata Knight Riders beat Mumbai Indians by 7 wickets at Sheikh Zayed Stadium, Abu Dhabi last night. Today, Royal Challengers Bangalore will take on Chennai Super Kings in Sharjah at 7:30 p.m.
Now let us take a look at the weather forecast for today. The national capital Delhi will have a generally cloudy sky. Light rain is also predicted. The temperature will vary between 24 and 34 degrees Celsius. Mumbai to have a generally cloudy sky with heavy rain. It recorded a minimum temperature of 25 degrees Celsius, while maximum is expected to be around 30. Chennai is expected to have generally cloudy sky with light rain. Temperature will move from a minimum of 26 to a maximum of 33 degrees Celsius. Kolkata will have a generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. The city recorded a minimum of temperature of 27 degrees Celsius, while maximum will be around 34 degrees. Srinagar will have mainly clear sky becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening. Temperature will hover between 12 and 29 degrees Celsius. Jammu will have mainly clear sky. Minimum temperature was 22 degrees Celsius, while the maximum will be 34 degrees. Leh is expected to have partly cloudy sky. It registered a minimum temperature of 7 degrees Celsius. Maximum is likely to be 24 degrees. Gilgit will have generally cloudy sky. The temperature will hover between 13 and 31 degrees Celsius. Muzaffarabad will have mainly clear sky becoming partly cloudy towards evening or night. Minimum temperature was 18 degrees Celsius, while maximum will be around 36 degrees. Visakhapatnam will have generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. City noted a minimum temperature of 26 degrees Celsius. Upper limit of temperature is expected to be around 33 degrees. Bengaluru and Thiruvananthapuram will have partly cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. The temperature in Bengaluru will hover between 20 and 28 degrees Celsius. In Thiruvananthapuram, the minimum temperature was 24 degrees Celsius, while the maximum will be around 32 degrees. Puducherry may have thunderstorm with rain. Temperature will vary between 25 and 34 degrees Celsius. Guwahati, Imphal, Shillong, Aizawl, Kohima, Itanagar and Agartala will have generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. In Guwahati, the minimum temperature was 25 degrees Celsius, while maximum will be around 35 degrees. Gangtok will have partly cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. Temperature will hover between 16 and 22 degrees Celsius. The temperature in Agartala will move from a minimum of 26 degrees to a maximum of 33 degrees.
And now an overview of today's newspapers. All the dailies have mentioned the Prime Minister's visit to Washington for the first in-person Quad meet. Modi meets top US CEOs as India eyes cutting-edge investments in key sectors, writes the Tribune. The Pioneer on its front page headline says, unique digital health ID soon to have your medical records. Modi to launch PM Digital Health Mission on September 27th. Quoting the Supreme Court's appreciation on the centre's decision to pay compensation to families of people who died due to COVID-19, Hindustan Times writes, India did what no country could. A top front page headline in the Economic Times reads, auto gadgets to pinch pockets more as electronics may see price hike of up to 8%. The Statesman reports, Defence Ministry places order for 118 Arjun tanks for the Indian Army. And finally, the Times of India writes, to facilitate jabs at home, vax for disabled people with special needs gets government nod.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi meets U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris in Washington, D.C. Two leaders call for a free and open Indo-Pacific region. Prime Minister also holds bilateral meetings with his Japanese and Australian counterparts. PM Modi to hold bilateral meeting with U.S. President Joe Biden and attend Quad summit at White House today. Indian Army to procure 118 main battle tanks Arjun Mark 1A worth 7,523 crore rupees. Government allows door-to-door COVID vaccination for differently abled persons. India's vaccination coverage crosses 84 crore mark. First Himalayan Film Festival begins today at Leh in Ladakh, and in IPL cricket, Kolkata Knight Riders beat Mumbai Indians by 7 wickets in Abu Dhabi. And with that we end the morning news. Have a nice day.